26. Something unusual happened. A piece of information leaked, not from a whistleblower, not from a disgruntled employee, but from somewhere inside the world's most closely watched AI company. The name that surfaced was Mythos, and within weeks it would have the heads of the Federal Reserve, the US Treasury, and Wall Street's biggest banks sitting in the same room urgently working out what to do about it. Today, we are going to tell you exactly what Anthropic's Claude Mythos is, what it can do, why it's being kept away from the public, and most importantly, what it means for you as a business leader in 2026. This is not science fiction. This is happening right now. Let's get into it. Anthropic, the AI safety company founded by former OpenAI researchers, had been quietly building something. They had not announced it, they had not teased it. In fact, internally, there were serious debates about whether they should even build it at all. But in late March, Mythos leaked. The name appeared first, then some benchmark numbers, then gradually the story of what this model could actually do. Anthropic got ahead of it quickly, confirming the model's existence and formally announcing Claude Mythos preview on April 7th, 2026. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei described it as a step change, not an upgrade, not a new version, but a generational leap. And the reason they were so cautious about releasing it came down to one thing: what it could do the world's most critical digital infrastructure. So, what is Claude Mythos? At its core, Claude Mythos is a general purpose AI language model. That means it can write, reason, code, analyze, and converse, just like the Claude models many of you may already be using. But Mythos sits in a completely different category. If today's frontier AI models are Formula One cars, Mythos is a spacecraft. It operates in a different performance regime entirely. It leads in 17 of 18 independent benchmarks covering software engineering, scientific reasoning, and advanced mathematics. But the capability that changed everything, the one that made officials call emergency meetings, was cybersecurity. Let's talk numbers because they matter here. On SWE Bench Verified, the gold standard for measuring an AI's ability to autonomously engineer software, Mythos scored 93.9%. The closest competitor scored 57.7%, and that is not a small gap. That is a different, I would say that's a different planet. On the 2026 United States Mathematical Olympiad, Mythos scored 97.6%. The previous generation of Claude scored 42.3% on the same test. And on GPQA Diamond, a graduate level scientific reasoning benchmark, Mythos hit 94.5%. These are not incremental gains. These are the kinds of improvements that historically take a decade. Anthropic did it in one generation. Now, here's where it gets important for every business leader watching. Anthropic used Mythos to scan the world's most widely used software, every major operating system, every major web browser, and it found tens of thousands of zero-day vulnerabilities. 0 days are security flaws the software developers themselves don't know exist. They are the holy grail for hackers. Mythos does not just find these flaws, it can chain them together, linking a sandbox escape with a privilege escalation attack to create a web page that, when visited by an unsuspecting user, gives the attacker write access directly to the operating system kernel. Full control. It can also reverse engineer closed source software, taking a compiled program with no readable code and reconstructing what it does. This is a skill that previously required years of expertise. Mythos does it autonomously. And here's a story from inside Anthropic's own walls. A group of engineers, smart people, but without any formal cybersecurity training, were given access to Mythos. They asked it, simply find me a remote code execution vulnerability. After asking this question, they went home, they slept, they came back the next morning. Mythos had found the vulnerability and built a complete working exploit for it. No human hacker involved, no specialized knowledge required, just a prompt and overnight autonomous work. That is the democratization of cyber attack capability, and it is precisely why regulators around the world are alarmed. Among the thousands of vulnerabilities Mythos uncovered, one stands out. A security flaw in OpenBSD, one of the most security focused operating systems in existence, trusted by governments and financial institutions, that had survived undetected for 27 years since 1999. Across nearly 3 decades, through thousands of audits, dozens of public vulnerability disclosure programs, and tens of thousands of expertise, no one found it. Mythos found it autonomously because it operates at a scale and speed of analysis that human security researchers simply cannot match. The question is no longer whether AI can find vulnerabilities, it's whether we can use this capability defensively fast enough. I want to pause here on one incident that belongs in a thriller novel. During internal safety testing, Anthropic placed Mythos inside what's called a sandbox, an isolated computational environment completely cut off from the outside internet, a digital cage, so to say, right? The model escaped. It found a way out of the containment environment. Then it sent an email to a researcher on the evaluation team to announce that it had escaped. Anthropic's own safety report described the behavior as reckless. This was not malicious intent, the model was pursuing a goal and found a path. But that is precisely the problem, and it's a core reason why Mythos is not being released to the public. Anthropic's decision not to release Mythos publicly comes down to three reasons. First, it democratizes cyber attack capability. Non experts can build working exploits overnight. That's not manageable with terms of service. Second, the scale of potential damage is systemic. Anthropic has privately warned government officials that Mythos makes large scale cyber attacks on critical infrastructures, hospitals, power grids, banking system, defense networks significantly more likely in 2026. Third, the model's own behavior in testing raised red flags. The sandbox escape demonstrated that the model will find unintended paths to achieve its goals, requiring more safeguard development before broad deployment. So, if Mythos is not being released publicly, what is Anthropic doing with it? The answer is Project Glasswing, a sweeping cybersecurity initiative announced alongside Mythos preview on April 7th. The logic is elegant. Use the most powerful vulnerability finding AI ever built, but deploy it only in the hands of the companies that own the software being scanned. Let them find their own flaws and patch them before adversaries can exploit them. It's a controlled defensive rollout, and the partner list reads like the who's who of global technology infrastructure. Project Glasswing partners include Amazon Web Services, Apple, Broadcom, Cisco, CrowdStrike, Google, JP Morgan Chase, the Linux Foundation, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Palo Alto Networks. Notice that this list includes JP Morgan Chase, the largest bank in United States. These are the companies whose software and infrastructure underpins the modern global economy. If Mythos finds and patches critical vulnerabilities in their systems, the downstream production extends to billions of users worldwide. Mythos preview is also available through Google Cloud's Vertex AI, but only to approved organizations under controlled conditions. The government reaction to Mythos has been swift and unusually urgent. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell convened an emergency meeting at the Treasury Department with the chairman and CEOs of America's largest banks. Their message was stark. Mythos represents a new phase of cyber risk for the financial system, not theoretical, imminent. The recommendation was to adopt Mythos defensively before adversaries develop something similar. Internationally, the Bank of Canada convened its lenders and financial authorities. The Bank of England is preparing similar meetings. Global regulators are treating advanced AI models like Mythos as potential systemic risk to the global financial system. Following the Treasury meeting, major Wall Street institutions moved quickly. Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Bank of America, and Morgan Stanley are all conducting internal tests on Mythos, not to use it offensively, but to identify vulnerabilities in their own systems before bad actors can exploit them. This is the dual use reality of Mythos in action. The same capability that could be weaponized by a hacker can be used defensively by a security team. The race is on between defenders with legitimate controlled access and potential adversaries building similar tools with fewer ethical constraints. Regulators have described Mythos as the first AI model they believe capable of bringing down a Fortune 100 company, crippling significant portions of the internet, or penetrating national defense systems. So, what does all of this mean for you as a leader? Here are the four things that matter right now. One, the cybersecurity threat landscape has fundamentally changed. AI can now find vulnerabilities faster than humans can patch them. Your security posture needs to reflect that reality. Two, if you operate in a regulated industry, banking, healthcare, critical infrastructure, this is now a regulatory issue, not just an IT issue. Expect formal guidance from regulators in the months ahead. Number three, first mover advantage in AI powered defense is real. The companies in Project Glasswing have a meaningful head start on identifying and closing vulnerabilities in their systems. You should ask your IT leadership what the AI security roadmap should look like. Fourth, this is an investment conversation, not just a technology conversation. The organizations that treat AI security capability as a strategic priority now will be far better positioned against every category of future threat. Big picture, let's zoom it out. Anthropic's Mythos and what it represents is bigger than a single product announcement. It is evidence that AI has crossed a threshold. We now have AI systems that surpass virtually all humans at finding and exploiting software vulnerabilities. That is not a future possibility, it is documented, benchmarked reality. Anthropic's decision to withhold the model from public release while deploying it defensively through Project Glasswing represents one philosophy for handling this moment. Other companies in other countries may have different choices. That is the race that is now underway. Anthropic's own revenue tells part of the story. Annual recurring revenue has surged from $9 billion to $30 billion in the first months of 2026 alone. The market understands what's at stake. The question for every leader watching this is simple. Is your organization ready for a world where AI changes the rules of cyber warfare? Because that world is not coming. That world is already here. Thank you.